Hey everybody, I know what you're thinking. I got on a mask, I'm wearing gloves. Obviously, I'm worried about the corona, and that's what we're going to do a podcast on, right? Wrong. So, today we're going to go over what is quite possibly the most stressful thing you can do that helps relieve stress. It can be very expensive, it can be very cheap. We're going to be talking about fishing. So, these are just some of the things that I use when I go to help take care of me. Now, when I was working up trying to figure out what to do this on, I actually had a couple of questions asked of me while I was asking around talking to some folks. And one is, does fishing have any environmental effects? Does it affect the ecosystem? That kind of stuff. It's actually good questions. You see, they do. Now, excuse me. When it comes to environmental stuff, obviously fish need water. They need to be in that water. And they help take care of the grass that grows there, which helps clean the water. Quite possibly the most devastating thing to the environment when it comes to fishing is with commercial fishing, when they overfish an area. And even when they do that, most of the fish they caught are what's called bycatch, which are not the species they're after. So a lot of times these fish die. You can't put them back. So they're just trash. And I hate to say it that way, but that's what happens to them. And in the effects of fishing on marine ecosystem by Simon Jennings and Michael Kaiser in 98, they talked about that. How a large portion of that total catch is just bycatch. It's waste. So that hurts the ecosystem and the environment because those fish do different things for their ecosystem. Now, I prefer more of like the sports fisherman, somebody who wants to go out and catch fish and have a good time. So what effect do they have? Actually, a lot. Back in 2007, the National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration did a study and found that 58% of the fish that were caught live were released, meaning people were catching fish and just doing the catch and release, putting them back. So those fish grow, they continue to spawn, lay their eggs, more hatch, you get more fish. Excuse me. Now, that also can cause an issue with overcrowding. So we like to catch fish. Some of them go in the freezer. They get cooked. Another question I was asked about that when it comes to the fish, does it hurt the fish? No. If they're hooked in the lip, which is where most all fish are caught. Now, if a fish ingests that bait and it gets stuck down in their stomach and you wind up tearing their stuff, just for lack of a better word, their guts out when you're trying to get the hook out, yes, it's probably going to kill the fish. Now, you can take that fish home, clean it, put it in your freezer, or you can put it back. Preferably go ahead and get it out of its misery, but most fish are carnivores. They eat meat. They eat other fish. So put it back and let that fish actually feed the others. Now, I know we all want to save the environment. Fishing is a great way to do it. It's fun. But to fish, you actually have to have some gear. And so I have a couple things here I'm going to show you. First, as when we started, these are fishing gloves and a neck gaiter just to help keep the sun down because we know how bad sunburns are. But then you also have some poles, and I have a couple of mine here. Just different kinds, as you can see. Again, poles are entirely up to the person. What you're fishing for, what you want. Now, there are different baits. So I'm going to focus more like bass, crappie, which are what most people eat. They're catfish. Most of the time, though, with catfish, people use live bait. And you can use live bait with any fish. But like when it comes to bass, which is like one of the top game fish people love to fish for, things like a plastic worm, which is all it is plastic. They'll come scented. Sometimes they'll be in some oil that'll just help put a scent trail in the water. Then you have these other artificial baits like this It's called a rattle trap, and you can probably hear it rattling. What that does is it swims through the water and it shakes and sends off those vibrations. The fish pick up on the vibrations, they come after it. You get to catch fish. And then you also have other types of lures which almost will mimic like a bug or something dead that's floating, or it'll kind of just hover at a certain depth depending on the weight. So it'll just kind of sit there one spot in the water and kind of go with the tides, whatever's happening. Now what's neat, over the years, especially here recently with changes in technologies, we all know how many television stations there are, radio stations. Well, now all of this stuff can be found on TV, your radio, your computer. You can go on YouTube. Technology is advanced to the point where everything is out there. It's easy to find stuff. If you go to YouTube and just search up bass fishing, you can find hundreds, if not thousands of videos. You can find videos for pretty much everything, any kind of fishing, any how-to, how to use different lures, how to use different techniques. Because with a plastic worm, there's different techniques to use. There's a Carolina rig, there's Texas rig, there's drop shot. There's all kind of different ways to set it up, which makes that lure react different. Excuse me. So use those technologies, reach out there and see. I mean, there's television channels just for outdoor stuff where they'll teach you how to fish, how to hunt, how to do whatever you want. But it's just, our technology's got to the point where we're able to find and do anything we want, which is great. Now, I hope that some of y'all see this and decide, let's get out and do some fishing. You know, whether you like to eat them or not, the first time a fish hits your bait and you feel that line, and you feel the hit, you're hooked. Let's just be real. And then the last point I want to make is fishing is one of the greatest, or I said at the beginning, fishing is very stressful, but it's also a stress reliever. Because anytime you miss a fish, you get very stressed out. But then when you get one, the joy, the stress goes away. It's great. It can be super expensive, or you can get a stick and a piece of line and tie a hook on it, find your bait and put it in the water and catch a fish. Or you can pay hundreds of dollars for a rod and hundreds of dollars for a reel. I've seen them where they cost over $1,000. You don't have to have that stuff. But the best thing for me when it comes to fishing is the conversations that come out of it. So if you get a chance, get one of your parents or your grandparents, go spend a day fishing with them. Or even better, if you're old like me, I've got grandkids. I've taken my kids fishing, and now I get to take my grandkids fishing. Try it sometime, and you'll be amazed at the conversations you have and how close you get to other people. So I hope y'all got something out of this. If you have any questions, you know how to get me. Thanks.